The Nobel Peace Prize, synonymous with the world's most courageous peacemakers. It's an award that carries immense weight, representing a commitment to global harmony and the alleviation of suffering. Names like Martin Luther King Jr., individuals who champion civil rights through non-violent resistance, immediately spring to mind. Nelson Mandela, a symbol of reconciliation and the fight against apartheid, and Malala Yousafzai come to mind, icons of hope and justice, who have risked their lives to advocate for education and equality. The prize honors those who, in Alfred Nobel's words, have done the most for fraternity between nations, for the abolition or reduction of standing armies, and for the holding and promotion of peace congresses. Now imagine a name that stands in stark contrast, a figure whose actions often seem at odds with the very principles the Nobel Peace Prize represents: Vladimir Putin, President of Russia. In 2013, Putin's nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize shocked the world, sparking outrage and disbelief across the globe. How could a leader known for military interventions, a history with the KGB, and a firm grip on power be considered for such an honor? The question reverberated through international circles. The nomination, submitted by a Russian advocacy group, cited Putin's role in averting a US military strike on Syria, a move that potentially prevented a large-scale conflict. They argued this act prevented further bloodshed and showcased diplomacy over war, positioning Putin as a key player in de-escalating a tense international situation. Suddenly, the world was forced to reconsider what it means to be a peacemaker, and whether actions on a global stage could overshadow other, more controversial aspects of a leader's record. Could a single diplomatic move outweigh a legacy of conflict, internal repression, and a complex relationship with international law? The nomination ignited a global debate about the standards and soul of the Nobel Peace Prize, forcing a critical examination of its criteria and the values it upholds. Was this a redefinition of peace, acknowledging the complexities of international relations, or a distortion of the prize's purpose, undermining its credibility? The controversy exposed deep divisions in how leadership and peace are viewed worldwide, highlighting the subjective nature of these concepts in the context of global politics. It became more than a footnote. It was a flashpoint in the history of the Nobel, a moment that challenged its very foundation and sparked intense scrutiny. The world watched, questioning, who truly deserves to be called a peacemaker, and what actions truly qualify an individual for such a prestigious recognition? Unlike the other Nobel Prizes, which are awarded in Stockholm, Sweden, the Peace Prize finds its home in Oslo, Norway. This distinction adds a layer of intrigue to the award, setting it apart from its scientific and literary counterparts. It's a unique tradition, a specific wish set forth by Alfred Nobel himself in his will. He designated the Norwegian Nobel Committee to be the body responsible for selecting the laureate. Its winners, through their courage and dedication, have indelibly shaped the course of history, leaving a lasting impact on the world stage. Consider Mandela and de Klerk, jointly honored for their pivotal roles in dismantling apartheid in South Africa, ushering in an era of equality and justice. Or the Red Cross, a multiple-time recipient, recognized for its unwavering commitment to humanitarian work across the globe, alleviating suffering in times of crisis. But who exactly is empowered to nominate individuals and organizations for this prestigious award? The answer, perhaps surprisingly, is remarkably broad and inclusive, reflecting the universal aspiration for peace. This includes politicians, those who hold positions of power and influence on the national and international stage. Academics, scholars deeply engaged in the study of peace, conflict resolution, and international relations also have the right to nominate. Directors of peace institutes and research centers dedicated to the analysis and promotion of peaceful solutions are also eligible nominators. And even past laureates, those who have already been recognized for their contributions to peace, can nominate new candidates. This inclusivity naturally brings a great deal of diversity to the candidate pool, representing a wide range of perspectives and approaches to peacebuilding. But it also inevitably invites controversy to the candidate pool, sparking debate and discussion about what truly constitutes peace. The Peace Prize, unlike its scientific counterparts, often grapples with more subjective criteria, making the selection process particularly challenging. It can honor sustained, ongoing efforts to foster peace, or it can recognize a single, monumental breakthrough that dramatically alters the landscape. This inherent flexibility allows the committee to respond to current events, acknowledging timely and relevant contributions to peace in a rapidly changing world. However, this same flexibility also opens the door to criticism and even political maneuvering, as different actors seek to influence the selection process.
Each year, the Norwegian Nobel Committee receives hundreds of nominations, all pouring in before the January 31st deadline. From this vast pool of candidates, a dedicated 5-member Norwegian committee undertakes the arduous task of crafting a shortlist of the most promising contenders. The committee's deliberations are shrouded in secrecy, ensuring the integrity of the process and protecting the privacy of the nominees. Only after a period of 50 years are the nominees and the details of the deliberations finally revealed to the public, offering a glimpse into the past. This carefully constructed process is designed to protect the integrity of the award, shielding it from undue influence and maintaining its credibility. But it also inevitably fuels speculation and public debate, as observers attempt to predict the winner and analyze the committee's decision-making process. Ultimately, the prize's enduring prestige rests on this delicate balance between openness and discretion, transparency and confidentiality. And sometimes, as with controversial nominations like that of Vladimir Putin, the prize tests the very definition of peace and the boundaries of its application.
To understand the uproar over Putin's nomination, we must look at his rise. Putin began in the KGB, shaped by the Cold War's end and the collapse of Soviet power. He returned to Russia, quickly climbing the political ladder in St. Petersburg and Moscow. By 1999, he was acting president, soon consolidating power and restoring Russia's global presence. Domestically, he centralized authority and curbed dissent, while economic growth boosted his popularity. Internationally, he challenged the West, opposed NATO expansion, and used energy as leverage. Yet, his tenure is marked by wars in Chechnya and Georgia, the annexation of Crimea, and crackdowns on opposition. These actions stand in stark contrast to the ideals of the Nobel Peace Prize. Putin's legacy is complex, a strongman to some, an aggressor to others. His nomination forced the world to confront uncomfortable questions about power and peace. Can a leader with such a record ever be called a peacemaker? Putin's 2013 nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize sparked intense debate and scrutiny around the globe. It forced many to re-evaluate his role on the international stage. The nomination centered on his intervention in a very specific event. That event was the Syrian chemical weapons crisis. It was a moment of extreme international tension. After a deadly chemical attack in Ghouta, a Damascus suburb, which resulted in the deaths of hundreds, the world braced for a potential US military strike. The international community was outraged and demanded action. The strike was intended as a response against Assad's regime for its alleged use of chemical weapons. At this critical moment, with the world on the brink of military intervention, Putin proposed that Syria surrender its entire stockpile of chemical weapons to international control for verification and destruction. The plan offered a diplomatic exit from a potentially devastating military conflict, and it was quickly embraced by the global community as a viable alternative to war. The Russian group nominating Putin for the Nobel Prize claimed that his intervention had prevented a wider war in the Middle East and ultimately saved countless lives. They focused almost exclusively on this single act of diplomatic maneuvering, choosing to ignore his broader record on the international stage. Critics, however, vehemently argued that Putin's real motive in Syria was primarily protecting Assad, his longtime ally in the region, and not necessarily a genuine desire for peace. Russia's continued and unwavering support for Assad, both politically and militarily, significantly prolonged the devastating conflict in Syria. While the chemical weapons deal was undoubtedly a diplomatic success, averting immediate military action, it was also seen by many as part of a larger, more complex geopolitical strategy. The Nobel Committee, in considering the nomination, faced a significant dilemma. Does one act of de-escalation, however significant, truly outweigh years of perceived aggression and authoritarian actions? The nomination itself highlighted the inherent complexities of defining peace and assessing its true architects in the modern world. It also underscored the challenges of navigating international relations in a world characterized by shifting alliances and competing interests. Was Putin genuinely a peacemaker, striving for stability and resolution, or was he simply a shrewd strategist, skillfully maneuvering to advance Russia's interests? Ultimately, the answer depended on where you stood and the lens through which you viewed his actions. To grasp the controversy, compare Putin's nomination to Barack Obama's 2009 Nobel win. Obama received the prize early in his presidency, honored for his diplomatic tone and vision. Critics called it premature, an award for hope, not achievement, especially as the US was still at war. Putin's nomination, by contrast, was for a specific diplomatic act, the Syrian chemical weapons deal. Yet, his long record of military action and authoritarianism made him a polarizing candidate. The comparison raised a dilemma: should the prize reward intentions, as with Obama, or concrete acts, as with Putin? Both cases exposed the Nobel's struggle to define peace amid global complexity. Supporters saw Putin's actions as preventing war. Detractors saw a contradiction of the prize's values. The debate revealed deep divides over what the Nobel should represent. In both cases, the committee's choices sparked global debate about the meaning of peace. The prize's purpose was under the microscope as never before. Putin's nomination triggered outrage from human rights groups, world leaders, and former laureates. Critics cited Russia's crackdowns, media suppression, and discriminatory laws as evidence against his candidacy. Former laureates argued the nomination devalued the prize and undermined its credibility. The annexation of Crimea in 2014, soon after the nomination, intensified the backlash. For many, Putin's actions stood in direct opposition to the Nobel's ideals. The controversy forced the Nobel Committee to confront the tension between open nominations and public opinion. The debate became a symbol of the world's divisions over leadership and peace. The Nobel Peace Prize process is famously secretive, a tradition upheld. Nominee lists and deliberations are sealed for 50 years, ensuring confidentiality. This protects the committee from outside pressure, influence, but also fuels speculation and intrigue. In Putin's case, his nominators went public quite unusually, thrusting his name into headlines. Each year, rumors swirl about potential winners, generating buzz from celebrated activists to controversial figures. In 2013, Malala Yousafzai and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons were also contenders. Ultimately, the OPCW won, recognized for overseeing Syria's disarmament. A complex task, a nod to the crisis without honoring any single leader. The decision reflected the committee's careful navigation of controversy. The secrecy remains, but the debates it sparks are very public. Putin's nomination revealed the fractured state of global politics and the blurred lines between war and peace. For some, his actions in Syria were pragmatic diplomacy. For others, they were self-serving. The episode exposed the subjectivity of the Peace Prize. What counts as peace, and who decides? The committee's choice to honor the OPCW, not Putin, was a strategic move to uphold the prize's integrity. The controversy is a cautionary tale about the Nobel's vulnerability to political manipulation. As the world grows more divided, the Nobel Committee faces ever tougher questions. Putin's nomination will be remembered as a moment that forced the world to ask, what does peace truly mean? And who, in our complex world, deserves to be called a champion of peace?